Hey guys, motx here with my first YouTube video. So I've been really trying to start up this YouTube channel for a while now, and man, it has been hell. I've been literally going back and forth in my head, but here we are. So in this under 40 minutes video, I'm going to be showing you how to create this cool animation for a luxury brand. I'm going to be taking you through animation, the lighting process, and also the shading from scratch in Blender. And we're going to be going through the After Effects process of the grading and the edits. You can follow through with this video as a beginner, but I recommend you already knowing the basic navigation of the Blender UI. I've already prepared this starter blend file for you, linked down below, so you can download that from my Gumroad page. Alright, let's get started. You can get started with the lighting. So the basic lighting actually here, it's really bland. So let's head on to the world settings. You can see I actually put the strength to 0.2 for you, just to not to make it completely black, just to fill up the black spots. You see what I'm talking about. So let's get started with the lighting. Shift A, light, area light. We press G and Z to bring it up. Now I won't advise you scaling the light from here. You can scale it from the light properties right here, and you can increase the size now. Let's increase it a bit, yeah, and we change the strength to about 3000. So let's fire up the rendered view and see what that looks like. All right, so let's start positioning this light. We can have this come from here. We can have this come from here. From here, I'm just using the G and R keys, the G to move and the R keys to rotate. So we can press 5 and 7 to tab into top orthographic and position our light well. All right, perfect. We can go back to the top orthographic. Let's adjust this a bit and move this right here, rotate. If you don't know the shortcut keys, you can press T and actually select the shortcut keys from here and rotate. Right, now let's move this down and rotate this. Let's change the axis to local and rotate this right here. All right, looking good. Let's move this back a bit. We can decrease this to about 2000. See how that looks. All right, nice. So this, I basically use the area light to create some sharp point lighting and the gradients to create this kind of soft box look. So let me teach you how to do that. You create a plane, you raise that up, you scale it up, rotate it on the x-axis 90 degrees. Now we can solo it by pressing the / button just to see what we're doing. So this is blank. This is blank right here. So what we have to do is head on to the material properties, create a new material, and let's start. What we have to do is create a gradient texture, and plug the factor into the emission. Create a color ramp converter, and put this right between here. And now for the vector, let's change this to spherical. And for the vector, you can just click Ctrl T if you have your Node Wrangler add-on enabled. Let me teach you how to enable that. Go to Edit, Preferences, and search for Node Wrangler, and right here enable it. So once you click on this and press Ctrl T, all you have to do is change this to objects, and now we have this softbox look. So the reason for the color ramp right here is to actually control the look of the lighting. All right, great. So now we can press the / back. Now let's position this light right here. You can scale it up a bit more, rotate this right here, on the z-axis and position the lights here. Now we can actually turn off these lights. I'm pressing H for height to see the effect, the soft look of this softbox we just created. Actually, we can change this to ease to create a more ramp effect. So all right, cool. We can also load the other lights. Now let's take care of this light of the back emission as shown right here. Okay, so we want to create a gradient texture and plug in the factor into the emission. So facts, I actually created two materials because I couldn't find a way to blend the gradients in seamlessly. So I created two materials, one for this one just to be blank, to be blonde white, and this one to be a gradient texture and factor into the emission. Yes, to be a blonde gradient. So what I did is same process, a color ramp right here, Control T right here, and this time we need it to be linear. Let's decrease the emission strength of this. We need this to be actually linear. So if we can look at this, we can actually check from here. Yes, to what we have in our reference. Perfect. So let's work on the colors. We change this black to white and this one to this kind of pinkish color. So let's adjust this. We change it to this pinkish color to get that pinkish look. What we have, yes. Let's adjust this a little bit. We can use this hex code 7A5A6BC. So that's what I literally used for the reference image. So yeah, that works fine. Perfect. So now we can actually change the color right here to this white soft light. Since we have these two white lights that are bright right here, we can have this soft light pick out, use the same color as this. So we can go back to this gradient and actually copy the hex code and paste it right here. Yeah, so that will give us some colored lighting from the side. Now let's actually duplicate this. We press 5 and 7 and duplicate this to this other end right here, and we move this down, move it in a way to where the camera won't show. All right, rotate this a bit. Perfect. All right, so let's work on the textures. So the textures are actually included in the file below. With your Node Wrangler add-ons already enabled, we can click on the principal BSDF and click Ctrl-Shift-T. Yes, that will bring up the file manager in which you can select your textures. So this texture is albedo with the naming. We click this, hold down Control key and click. So we are basically imputing the roughness, the normal, there's another normal 2K. Sorry, we're including the roughness, the normal, and these two this albedo and the displacement. So let's set that up. Wait for that to update. You can see we have our wood. So these textures are actually 8K, and if you zoom up close, it's actually a nice texture. So now let's go for the ground too. The ground, I download this nice texture from Pixel Megascans and let's set it up. So we can select Shift A, image texture, and open up the texture right here. This is the roughness ground, exactly. So we plug that into the roughness of of the floor material, and we can see we already have some roughness. Now let's decrease the base color down to black. You can already see the effect going on here. So now I also included the normal map for you. So let's duplicate the Shift T, duplicate, and hit roughness 2K. Now let's plug that to the normal, and Shift A, we bring in our normal map to convert to the normal. Let's turn that strength down to 0.01. all right, perfect. Now we want to tweak this rough ground to match the glossiness of the reference. So to do that, we'll press Shift A and search for color ramp. So with this, we can actually slide this in and look at the effect this creates. Look at the nice effect this creates. So we have a glossy ground, but also scattered with some bumps on the ground. All right, so let's quickly texture this cap. It's just a quick material. We can have the metallic all the way up, the roughness all the way down, not too down, and the base color, we bring this down. So you can see we basically have the cap close to the reference. All right, nice. So what we have to do now, let's actually texture the glass. So the way I've modeled this glass is actually split into two. We have the outer glass, and there is actually an inner glass. Inside is an inner glass and an outer glass. Okay, so let's texture this outer glass. So basically the idea here is to use the outer glass as the main glass body for the perfume, and the inner glass as actually the contents inside. So the outer glass, you create just a new material and reduce the roughness, and head on over to transmission and increase this to the last actually. So we can already see the effects right here. So now the inner glass will be the same thing, the transmission all the way up and the roughness all the way down, but with a bit of twist. We have to actually play with the IOR. IOR I use for the reference is 0.8. You can see we have that clear glass look, and also this sweet reflection on this side coming from here. So now let's change up the color of the content inside. So still with the inner glass selected, we can change the base color to this hex code. So we have changed it to this hex color FFE8FB. So basically we already have our scene actually looking good. So we can add a bit of touches. So for this glass, we can actually add a bit of normals. For that, we can select the outer glass. We can add in a bump to it just to give this realism. We can add in a bump to the normal, yeah, and actually put in a noise texture. Let's decrease this strength to 0.1 and this distance to, let's say, 0.3. all right, and connect the noise texture factor to the height. Now we will increase the scale to a very high number and actually decrease the roughness. So let's increase the detail too. Let's increase the scale to a very higher number. Let's say 600. And now let's decrease the the distance to 0.01. Can decrease the strength too. Can decrease the strength too. All right, just to give it that realism, that realistic look, let's increase the scale a bit more, say 1000. all right, okay, now we can actually turn on this other material right here. Put the emission back to 2. All right, let's play with this gradient ramp a bit. Let's actually increase the emission strength a bit too. So we have the light coming from the side. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So let's add one more light just to highlight this part of the wood. Okay, we select light and area as usual, and we move this. Let's head on to solid view. Now let's increase the scale, the size of the lights, and change this to ellipse. Yes, ellipse, and increase the white size a bit. Or let's change this to disc instead and increase the size and scale it on the y-axis like this. Now let's position it to hit this part of the wood. We click RY and position it right here. Let's actually increase the size a bit more and raise this up. Move this on the x-axis. Let's position this down. Just trying to finesse the position of the lights. All right, this is good. Now we can increase the power to say for 3000. Now we want the light to hit just this part. Now we can decrease the spread to say 20. So we can see what happening. Let's decrease the spread a bit more. And now let's actually manipulate and change the color of this light. We can click on use nodes and add in a black body node and connect the color to the color. And we can see that it's really bright and red. So let's increase this to 4000. All right, now we can actually decrease the size of this light just to isolate the part and the parts we're going for. All right, just to give it that depth. So let's move it on the y-axis. Let's move it back a bit. All right, this is good. Let's decrease this, actually say 2300, or let's go down to 500 and start increasing it a little. Say 700, 800, say 1000. We want the main focus to be on this. All right, cool. All right, this is nice. Now we can actually increase this light, say 2500, and give the white some color, a little bit of color, and still increase it a bit, say 4000. Or we can reduce the spread actually to increase the concentration of the light on the body and turn off multiple importance because of the, we can see that's actually a neat trick. If you see your light is actually disturbing your glass, you can turn off the multiple importance option and to be gone. All right, I think this is well lit up at this moment. You can turn off multiple importance for this, or leave it on. All right, so the animation I did for this scene is just a basic pushing, just a basic camera pushing. I've actually animated it for you already. Just a basic camera pushing. We come here, we select the camera, click I, click location, and we move to about say 90 frames and move the camera front from where it was and click I, rotation. So that will basically give it that smooth, slow camera movement. Now let's head on to the particles.